This is how the calendar worked in ancient Egypt. To organize their days and adjust their agricultural activities to the periodic flooding of the Nile, the ancient Egyptians created a 360-day calendar to which they added 5 days that they called epigomenal, added, and divided the sky into constellations and decans. The observation of astronomical phenomena led the Egyptians to develop a culture based on them. That is to say, for the ancient Egyptians it was the solar cycle that marked the rhythm of their life and that of the country. Re, god of the sun, crossed the skies in the morning and the underworld at night, overcoming the enemies of darkness to rise the next day with full force. Thus, day after day, the cycle of light and darkness, of life and death followed one another. The economy of the ancient Egyptians was based on agriculture. They lived off what the land gave them, and the cycle that governed agricultural life was that of the Nile, the river that irrigated their crops and flooded them with its fertilizing silt on a regular basis each year. The need to foresee the cyclical flooding of the Nile, the withdrawal of the waters or the sowing and harvesting seasons led the Egyptians to draw up a meticulous calendar. The Syrian calendar marks the flooding of the Nile. There were 2 calendars in Egypt. An official one, of religious and administrative character, and an agricultural one. The official calendar had a year of 365 days divided into 12 months of 30 days each, organized in 3 periods of 10 days. To help adjust the calendar to the solar cycle, 5 days, called epigomenies, i.e., additions, were added to each year. Legend attributes the origin of the epigomenal days to the god Thoth. It is said that he won them by playing checkers and gave them to his lover Nut, goddess of heaven. This calendar had a slight mismatch with the solar cycle, which we corrected by adding a day every 4 years, with leap years. For its part, the agricultural calendar was marked by the floods of the Nile. It consisted of 365 days and 6 hours. The appearance of the star Sirius or Sotis on the horizon coincided with the beginning of the annual flood. The star is visible for a short time since it coincides with the rising of the sun, and with its light the star is no longer seen. The first description we have of this star is from the time of Pharaoh Dyer, Dynasty I, on an ivory tablet from Abydos. It is represented as a seated cow with a plant, ideogram of year, between its horns. In the pyramid texts she is described as being united with Osiris, giving birth to the morning star. For the Egyptians it was the most important star. The first calendar. The civil and agricultural calendars had a mismatch with the solar cycle and could only coincide every 1,456 years of the length of the Zodiac cycle. A synchronization of the 2 cycles is known in the year 139 AD, in the time of Emperor Antoninus Pius, which was commemorated with the issue of a coin in Alexandria. Both calendars divided the year into 3 seasons. The first was Ake, the flooding of the banks of the Nile. It ran from mid-July to the end of October. The second season, from November to February, was Parade. The water had receded, leaving rich silt on the ground as a fertile marinade. It was time to prepare the soil and plant the seeds. Kimu was the last of the seasons, the harvest, which lasted from March to the beginning of July. Around July 18th, Sotis would reappear and the flood cycle would begin again. Astronomical science in ancient Egypt was developed for the measurement of time and the orientation of religious and funerary buildings. The North Pole and its variation over the centuries was determined quite accurately. They gave names to stars, constellations and planets. They divided the sky into 36 constellations, also called Deans, since each one covered 10 degrees, as a calendar and night clock. They also divided the day into 24 hours. Each hour had its name, and its feminine representation is very common in the New Kingdom. Observation of the stars. There were three basic instruments with which the ancient Egyptians observed the stars: the gnomon, a vertical stick that measures the height of the sun from the projection of its shadow; the merjet, which was used in lunar astronomy and was similar to a plumb line; and finally, the intercolumbarium, a forked stick used in stargazing. Some tombs of the New Kingdom have astronomical representations on the ceilings, as is the case of the burial chamber of the tomb of Seti I in the Valley of the Kings. One of the best known is that of Senenmut, architect of Queen Hatshepsut, in her tomb of Deir el-Bahari. In this representation appear 12 circles that symbolize the first day of each month. Each circle is divided into 24 parts, which are the hours of the day. The circles are divided into 3 sections, the seasons, of a rectangle. In the same way that each year the cycle of life will be renewed, the same will happen to the deceased in his cycle of life and death. Another of the calendars to highlight is that of the funerary temple of Ramses II, the Ramesseum. In this place are represented the 12 months of the year, the 5 epagomenal days, the star Sotis, the god Thoth, god of measurement, accuracy, and science, and the 3 seasons. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe for more history content.